So I was looking for a good video to watch on YouTube while I was eating, but the algorithm just keeps recommending to me complete slop, so I decided I would try to get my algorithm back to the weird side of YouTube. I realized I hadn't been on the weird side of YouTube since the golden era. Back in the day, the site would just send you on recommendation rabbit holes, and you would end up on some pretty interesting content. Admittedly, the tinfoil hat side of the site was a little rough around the edges, but it was entertaining. So in order to train my algorithm to get me back to that side of the site, I searched CERN Occultism breakdown. I remember old YouTube used to be flooded with CERN conspiracies, but I couldn't find them anymore just offhand with a first search. I think a lot of those channels got nuked when YouTube did mass bans a couple years ago. But instead of being welcomed with a 1-hour video by some 33rd degree ascended master telling me how to open my third eye, I got this journalism lady, Cleo Abrams, with her 7 million view video about CERN. And below that, I got a slop dump of shorts consisting of Katy Perry mind control, Satan Comic-Con, and that old viral video of the old lady explaining how drinking a Monster Energy drink is a satanic ritual. I keep scrolling and then it's just official legacy news stories about CERN. Where's the fucking Mandela effect, man? I wanted to hear about how CERN opened a black hole and shifted us to another dimension where Curious George lost his tail and we all have memories from our home dimension that contradict the appearance of the Monopoly guy. And getting on the weird side of YouTube isn't as simple as just searching the Mandela effect. I tried that and all it came up with was the 20 most insane Mandela effects, this happy looking fucking video. I attempted other forms of searching and came up with very little luck. And I wasn't about to cheat and use some outside source in order to filter my search and find the content I was looking for. I was too far deep. I was feeling stubborn at this point. I wanted YouTube to put me on the weird side of YouTube where I could learn about CERN. I'm simply not satisfied with these AI factoid generated as 10 things you didn't know about CERN. Did you know the CERN facility is the size of Manhattan and it's the largest scientific instrument on Earth? Get the fuck out of here with your 8K HD ultra resolution looking ass. Give me the 240p sauce. I want bro in a bunker telling me how CERN is run by a global elite hidden occult reptilian order opening portals to other dimensions to destroy Earth. And enough of this self-aware ironic BS. I want earnestness and authenticity. I want to hear the crackle from his pile of documents and evidence on his desk, occasionally muffling his Temu blue snowball mic. I want bro to convincingly tell me how the world ended in 2012 and now we're living in a simulated parallel universe. And then I want to get up from my computer in a cold sweat, realize it's 3 a.m., decide to take my dog for a walk because I need to get back in touch with reality, and while I'm on my late night walk, I can ponder the true nature of existence and wonder if my perception of the world is in fact all wrong. Maybe the wool has been pulled over my eyes and CERN is opening portals to demonic dimensions through micro black holes and in the process disturbing the ancient god's slumber. But instead, YouTube wants to recommend Mr. Beast 30 celebrities fight for $1 million. Diabolical. Absolute slop. What the fuck has happened to this website? I just want to see what people are saying about CERN. It's frustrating that everything on this site has to be highly produced corporate content these days. And don't get me started about how YouTube just wants their site to be more monetizable, or that they just have their eyes on the dollar sign so they don't allow that kind of content. They pick and choose what they want to allow and what they want to monetize on the site, and they write their own rules. They could just as easily allow the weird side of YouTube to exist with minimal advertising, and we'd be happy with that. And I'm sure the people who make that sort of content would find a way to monetize it anyway. They don't need ad revenue from Coca-Cola. But it also goes without saying, this is all narrative control. Another thing that I noticed is that a lot of the mainstream videos that are allowed to go to the front page of search results on the site that talk about the conspiracies related to CERN always make a point to debunk that whole ritual thing that happened. And there's two angles to that. There's the one where it's the Gotthard base opening ceremony that was admittedly very strange, but it often gets confused with CERN. And then there's the other one that actually happened at the CERN facility around the Shiva statue that raised a few eyebrows. And this one's like almost as if they're begging for conspiracy theorists to go crazy over this, because the CERN facility requires bad badge clearance and has pretty tight security. I mean, I'm sure security's crazy there. They have a $5 billion machine that's doing experiments that are on the cutting edge of science. And then you have people like that Cleo Abram journalist lady who had the 7 million view video, and she went out of her way a great deal to say that that ceremony was nothing more than a prank. I mean, what kind of fucking prank is that? So I did a quick Google search just to see what would come up from that, and I noticed that the Wikipedia page that clarifies it's just a hoax, people, nothing to see here, well, that's like right at the top of the search results. I mean, I don't see what the problem is for the people there. Why don't they just say, oh yeah, we're into that shit? I mean, we put the giant Shiva statue right in the middle of our facility. And you got to admit, it is a little strange that they put that there. I mean, the Shiva is known as being the destroyer of the universe at the end of every cycle, and people often make the connection. You know, the obvious one on how the facility is doing experiments that tamper with the fundamental unexplored laws of particle physics and the basis of reality. And then they just decide to decorate their facility using an undisclosed amount of money to put a representation of a god that depicts the very destruction of the universe that they're studying, I guess. I mean, that is pretty metal. Yeah, it's pretty badass, but still strange when they're all secretive about it like that. And then the official story is like, what the fuck? So these people with black robes were given access to the CERN facility without permission. They had enough time to perform a fake human sacrifice ritual and then dip out, and the sources say they just ran away. Alright, whatever. So one big issue that I have with all these gatekeeping videos that pop up in lieu of what we used to get, it's just that they're so tabloid coded. They're like, hey, there's this big facility and they're doing stuff with particle physics. It's so complicated. I'm going to go get a tour. Like that journalist lady I was talking about. It's just full of music and animations and talking to the audience as if it's 60 Minutes or something. They treat the audience like we're a fucking kindergarten class or something. At least back in the day, say what you want about the weird side of YouTube and the validity of information. At least those guys would jump right into the topic and make like hour-long videos, and you could really get something from that side of YouTube. You'd hear a regular, everyday guy who just so happened to be really passionate about the topic, basically telling us stuff he thought we needed to know, as opposed to whatever these corporations are spitting out. And I think it's important, especially when it comes to a complicated subject like quantum physics, to have multiple voices give their opinion. Like shit, what are the philosophical and religious implications of the research that's going on at CERN? It's like these journalistic pieces about it just gloss over that part so casually. They're like, oh, it's going to change everything about our lives. And then cue the fluffy music and the AI-generated animation just to waste the audience's time. And the other effect this has is that they're retroactively giving credibility to some of the more outlandish claims that are out there. Like back in the day when these people would pop up on the weird side of YouTube with their videos, people would have the comment section, and if they were wrong, they'd be put in their place. Nowadays, these people are still posting these videos online. They're just delegated to the far-off darker corners of the internet where they could fester away from the sunlight of public opinion. And by hiding these fringe beliefs, they de facto turn them into occult content, when by definition the word occult when used as a verb just means hidden. I also believe to a certain extent they understand that a video with a thumbnail like this gets completely algorithm mogged by a video with a thumbnail like this. The Time War, how future intelligences are rewriting the present. That video is a pretty good example about how the weird side of YouTube can still deliver the sauce, compared to scientists at CERN say they've discovered a new level of reality. I don't give a fuck. Based on pure entertainment value alone, I'll go with the first one. But what's weird is that first video shows up when you search for CERN directly on YouTube, and the first thing she does is say that she's an AI clone, and then proceeds directly into trying to sell you some course. 200,000 views. And then on the other hand, you have the algorithmically demoted Time Wars video, which features a real-life person making his best attempt to explain retrocausality in quantum physics through a philosophical and religious lens. At the end of the day, nobody really knows what the implications are going to be when it comes to the research they're doing with the Large Hadron Collider. CERN's goal, after all, is to recreate the conditions that were at play during the Big Bang. They're literally on a hunt to figure out why the universe behaves as it does. So the question, are they opening up a portal to hell, invites the question, is there a hell? So since we're dealing with a subject that exists exactly at the intersection between science science and religion, wouldn't it make sense to observe this using religious terminology as well? Or at least do our very best to not throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to possible wisdoms that religious antiquity might offer when it comes to this current point in our scientific endeavors. I mean, what happens if they do actually open up a portal to the nether realm and Cthulhu ends up flying around? What are they going to say then? We should have listened. We should have listened. Or maybe not, who knows. Personally, I don't expend too much mental bandwidth thinking about CERN. And the most I'll bring it up in day-to-day normie conversations is when some unexplained phenomenon happens, I'll say to the people around me, it's that damn Hadron Collider, and they'll just look at me weird. But some people get the reference and laugh. It's actually an interesting vibe check and see who you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Are these people hip to the Hadron Collider? But the easier way to transition into a conversation about CERN is just bringing up the Mandela effect. Most people have heard of that, and then if the conversation flows naturally, you can sort of transition into CERN. But I'm really not sure what spreading awareness about the CERN research facility actually accomplishes. The average person just doesn't give a fuck anyway. But one thing I very much give a fuck about is that Curious George had a tail. And if the same people who are telling me Curious George did not have a tail are the same people who are telling me they're not doing rituals at CERN, then the whole thing is pretty much suspect. And honorable mentions go out to the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia and Richard Simmons headband. Also, I think most people would agree that the Monopoly guy had a monocle. So it goes without saying, there's something definitely up with the Mandela effect. And whether or not that has something to do with CERN, well, I'll leave that up to public opinion to determine. If you look online, you'll actually see that the Mandela effect started to gain popularity in 2009 when the term was coined, and that's surprisingly close to when the Hadron Collider was turned on, which was 2008. Do with that information what you will. I'm just a YouTuber. I just wanted to make a video about this topic. I don't think I'm going to dedicate an entire video to the Mandela effect because I pretty much covered it all here. And word to the wise, if you're at work and you hear in the background some coworker rambling about the Hadron Collider and CERN, just don't engage with the conversation. Don't let your power level be known. This is the sort of conversation that doesn't sit well with normies, and it's best kept to conversations by the railroad tracks, if you know what I mean. Anyways, if the world ends because of CERN, at least we'll know the lore. If you're interested in learning more about CERN from non-official sources, I'd recommend you go check out the Hyperborean Knowledge video about this topic. Maybe check that video out if you want to keep going down the CERN rabbit hole. Anyways, if you watched all the way to the end, comment free the tail. CERN did Curious George dirty by taking his tail away, and we're going to help him get it back. Even if we need to build our own Hadron Collider to open up a portal to the nether realms, we're going to retrieve that tail.